Hi Design and Draw. We are going to get started with some basic drawing today. So I would like you please to have your sketchbook ready to go, open it up to a blank page, and we're going to draw just some basic forms before we even start talking with our first drawing project, so that we can refer to basic forms and cross contour lines so you know what I'm talking about. The first thing I would like you to do is draw 4 basic forms: a sphere, a cone, a cylinder, and a cube. For some of you, this was really easy and went very quickly. And if that's the case, I'm going to fast forward the next part I have for you because I'm going to review those for anyone who that may have been a little bit challenging. So for those of you that were good on sphere, cone, cylinder, and cube, fast forward. To draw a sphere is simply a circle shape. It's the shading that we do with our pencil or the lines that we do across contour that create a shape into a form on a flat surface. So shape is the 2D name, sphere is the 3D name. A cone, while some students will say they think it looks like a triangle, it is not, because the bottom should not be flat or straight across. The bottom should have a rounded edge. So if I were going to call this a shape name, I would say it's a slice. The third one is a cylinder. You start the cylinder by creating this elliptical shape on top, and then you create the sides. And this cylinder, the sides are straight up and down. Same thing as the cone that we were just talking about. Please don't make the bottom flat. You want it to be round. You want the edge of this, cylinder to match the top. Okay, and then moving on to the cube. The cube is a square to start with, and then you're going to have the 3 corners pushing it back in space, because this is how we drew the first cube on the other page. And then the back line matches the front, and the side line matches the side. If that was still a little tricky for you, draw a square. Draw a second square, but move it up and over slightly. So I'm drawing a second square right on top. Then I'm going to connect the corners of that square. Then I will erase the lines back here. If I were drawing transparent forms, we would leave those lines, but we're drawing these as opaque forms, so I erased those. So just a quick review: sphere, cone, cylinder, cube. Okay. All right, let's go back to those 4 basic forms. In this class and with this drawing project that we're starting, we're going to draw more complex objects, but I will refer in complex objects, I'll refer to areas of objects that are complex and break them down into terms of things being more simple, like forms. There's a theory in drawing that if you can master all 4 of these forms and draw them and shade them really well, you can apply the more simple form into complex. So we'll be referring to these a lot: sphere, cone, cylinder, and cube. First thing that I want to do, moving on to cross contours, I want you to do this. I want you to take your hand, just like when you were younger. I want you to trace it like you would have done when you were a little kid, like a little making a Thanksgiving turkey or something. Just trace your hand. Then I want you to use one of the markers, and you have a felt tip in your bag that looks like this. However, I'm going to use a Sharpie because the line is a little thicker, a little heavier, and I feel like on this screen I'm using a document camera to trace. I feel like you lose some of the details, so I want it to show up well for you, so I'm using a heavier line. You can use that thin guy. Many of you may have done this activity before, which it's kind of fun, but more importantly, it's going to illustrate and explain to you the idea of cross contour. So you trace your hand. You can use a ruler. I'll start off using a ruler, but I also want to be respectful of your time and sharing that with you guys all the time. This is, doing this online is tricky because in person it's just a little bit different. different. So I don't want to, draw this hand, which I would normally spend at least half an hour on it. I don't want to do that, and you guys have to invest all that time watching the video and lose that time making your art. So I'm going to try and speed things up, but please follow my suggestions rather than you freehanding this. I would prefer you use a ruler. So again, I'm going to use the ruler at this bottom portion, but now I'm just going to freehand, but you'll keep sliding your ruler up. Okay, with that said, here I go. I'm going to keep going across my hand. I'm freehanding, doing these horizontal lines all the way across. If you have not figured this out while watching your videos, you can actually speed them up, which might be helpful. You certainly don't have to, but when it comes to some of the drawing pieces that take a long time, you're welcome to, or be drawing along with me so that you're multitasking, so you're not investing all this time just looking into the screen. You're keeping yourself busy too. So you've got your horizontal lines. Now we're going to take those lines and bump them around the contour of the hand. So I start on the bottom. I'm going to wrap around the contour of these lines. So you'll notice that this optical illusion starts to happen, and that's what's cool about drawing. Drawing is all about optical illusion. It's the idea of creating depth on a flat surface. So your paper is two-dimensional, but we're trying to create the illusion of 3D on a flat surface, and things like contour line are what make that happen. So this is cross contour on my hand drawing. Okay, so we should be good there. You'll be creating this drawing and taking a picture to submit. Now I'm going back to those basic forms. So let me flip back to the basic forms. I did a couple of demos. I'm going back to the original one that I sketched really quickly. And I'm actually going to zoom in. I hope that helps. And I'm going to share with you some examples of like what not to do if you will. So sorry. Sorry, giving a little piece of newsprint. I don't want this in my sketchbook, so I'm going to just show you what not to do real quick. So do not, please, for your vertical lines, do not make straight up and down lines or horizontal lines that are all the way across. You're going to wrap those lines around the contour. So this is what not to do. No, you want to do this. Wrap your lines where you hug the contour. So we're wrapping around. And then we're going to do the same thing on the side. On the cone, and again, I'm going to speed up so that you guys aren't spending all your time watching. I want you to get on to your own drawing. But the cone, same thing, I'm wrapping those lines. So this is what not to do for the cone. Don't make your lines perfectly straight across. That doesn't hug or wrap in the contour. You've got to follow the curve of the bottom of the cone. This cylinder, same situation. You have the ellipse up here, so we know that those lines are wrapping around your cylinder. So I'm going to wrap all the way around there. These three forms are your curved forms. This form, the cube, is not. So because it has flat planes, we're going to match that. So everything I've been telling you what not to do is exactly what you do on a cube. So I'm going to make the front of my cube, those lines, I want to make them horizontal. I follow the direction in the back, going back horizontally, and then the top of the cube, the same thing. This is a rough looking sketch. I'll put on the assignment an example of how yours should look a little cleaner. This was me drawing in a few minutes what I have an expectation of you spending between the hand and your basic forms. I have an expectation that this will probably take you an hour if you're doing it well and your drawing is nice and clean. So if you have any questions, sorry I missed you on the Zoom, but you're welcome, like always, to email me or text on Remind. I hope you're doing well. I'll see you soon.